What is up, everybody? Welcome back. Here we are, NASCAR Cup Series race, Las Vegas. What are we in? The second round of playoffs, race 1. 4 drivers were eliminated last week. This is going to be the start of the next round where I think it's going to be a little bit more competitive now. And then we have Talladega and the Roval coming up, so that's always wild. So can't wait to get into all that, break all that down for you. But first off, if you're new here, the easiest way to help me out, leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. 2 little clicks. You don't have to pay anything. It's free. Helps me out. Helps me grow a ton. If you also want to turn on the notification bell and leave a comment, let me know how you thought the video was, your thoughts on today's slate, who you think is going to win the race, any questions. I'm always here to help out, so be sure to leave those comments down below as well. If you always want to subscribe to my Patreon for only $10 a month, you're going to get articles for all 3 NASCAR series, Cup, Xfinity, and Truck series, all 3 combined, along with cheat sheets with projections and all the stats you need to know, and my rankings and my cash score. So be sure to check out all that over there as well. I'll put the link in the description below. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into the plays, and we are going to start out with probably the favorite for the championship at this point, Kevin Harvick, $11,700 starting on the pole. 6th best average finish at Vegas, best average finish at intermediate tracks, and best at steep tracks. When we go look at laps led, 455 at Vegas, yeah, that's the most. 3,228 laps led at intermediates, yeah, that's also the most. Oh, and guess what? Steep tracks, 1,728, that's also the most. He also leads all the stats in fastest laps, also leads all of them in driver rating. In the last 5 races, guess what? Leads pretty much everything in that too. Best average finish, best average position, most laps led, most fastest laps. So Harvick's the favorite, right? I mean that's pretty much. All those stats just prove it to you that Kevin Harvick has just been out of his mind this year, out of his mind recently. He's definitely the favorite here. He's run well here in the past, won races here in the past, so definitely someone to look for. I will say though, in the Vegas race earlier this year, he did not really look too hot, but that was months and months and months ago. That was in March, February, something like that. So it's been a long time since then. So I think he'll be okay the way he's been running at the 1.5 mile tracks this year. So I think he's a very, very, very good play. Brad Keselowski is up next, starting 12th, $11,400. I'd say those 2 and Hamlin are probably the 3 favorites for the championship. More than likely, one of those 3 wins. I think most people would agree with me on that. He has the best average finish at Vegas in the field, 5th best at intermediates, and 4th best at steep tracks. When we go look at laps led, he does only have 92 laps led at Vegas, though, so that's a little bit interesting. It's still the 4th most, but it's still not that many. 1,123 laps led at intermediate tracks and 801 at steep tracks. In the last 5 races, Brad has an average finish of 12.6, which would be much higher if he didn't finish dead last at Bristol last week. And 283 laps led. He's been running really, really well, so I'd look to see him continue that at a track he's done very well at, and he's won at before. So definitely someone with some place differential upside who has dominator upside. I'd say he's less likely to lead a ton of laps than Kevin Harvick is, but I think he's still a good play. Denny Hamlin, though, probably someone I'm going to stay away from. Only the 16th best average finish at Vegas, 6th best at intermediates, and 6th best at steep tracks, but only 4 laps led at Las Vegas over the last 2 years, which is a little bit scary, and 939 at intermediates and 781 at steep tracks. He does well at tracks similar to this, but this is just not a track that has been very good for him, at all. So definitely not something I really want to get to that much. I'd rather play Hamlin, or I'd rather play Harvick and Keselowski for sure. But I think he'll probably get some lower ownership this week, so I think that's fine. Last 5 races, an average finish of 13.2 and 180 laps led. Didn't really have that great. He had a fine first round. Did more than well enough to move on, but he wasn't like what we've seen all year. It was more like the Harvick and Keselowski show for 2 races. So even in the race as Keselowski lost, he still did very well in. So definitely Hamlin needs to bounce back, I think, a little bit here, get his momentum going. But it's just not the track he's the best at. Martin Truex Jr. is someone I do like, though. 3rd best average finish at Las Vegas, 2nd best at intermediates, and 5th best at steep tracks. He is the 3rd best average position at Las Vegas, as well as the 3rd best at intermediates and 4th at steep tracks. When we go look at laps led, he is the 2nd most. Oh, that's fastest laps. At laps led, he is 3rd most in the field at 135 at Vegas. He also has 1,600 at intermediates and 700 at steep tracks. So he's run very well at here at this track. He can lead laps. He can definitely be up front. The JGR cars in the race earlier this year at Vegas did not look fast, but Truex was fast. The other 3 sucked, but Truex was very, very good. So definitely something to keep an eye on. I think he's another driver who's a sneaky favorite for the championship this year. Only has 1 win, but he's been running really well. Last 5 races, though, only an average finish of 10.4 and 284 laps led, though, so that's good. Definitely someone I want to keep my eye on, and definitely someone I'd like for this race. I also really like Joey Logano for this race. I think he's going to be a sneaky play at 10,300, starting 5th. Logano has the 2nd best average finish at Las Vegas. He is the 4th best at intermediates and the 3rd best at steep tracks. When we go look at laps led, He has 316 at Las Vegas, which is the most or second most in the field, 1,108 intermediates and 742 at steep tracks. If you recall, he won the race in the spring, in the spring, but he probably shouldn't have won. He should have finished like in the top 5, I think third or fourth is where he was running when the caution came out, but he did still end up winning the race. So he's running. I mean, but like there's some fluke finishes. Like I think Matt Benedetto and Stenhouse were like second and third, and they would not have finished that if it wasn't for that late race caution. But he ran well here all day, led laps. So definitely Logano is someone I want to keep my eye on. Definitely someone I want to have some exposure to. And he's been running well recently. 6.2 average finish, only 60 laps led though. But at a track he's done really well in the past that he won at already this year. Definitely someone I want to keep my eye on. Kyle Busch, $10,000, starting second, 4th best average finish at Vegas, 3rd best at intermediates, and 2nd best at steep tracks. When we go look at laps led, only 24 at Vegas though, but 1,569 at intermediates and then 787 at steep tracks. So we know he can run well here. I mean, it's Kyle Busch, just hasn't been his year, still hasn't got a win yet. But I'm at this point, Kyle Busch, I feel like it's just going to be a consistent top 5 to top 10 for the rest of the way out. Average finish of 5.8 in the last 5 races and 166 laps led. So I think he'll have a good run, but probably not someone who's going to get out front and lead laps. I mean, I don't expect him to lead the early portion over Kevin Harvick. I'd be kind of shocked if that happens. Like, good for him if it does, but I just don't think that's going to happen. Chase Elliott starts 3rd at $9,700. Elliott has not really been that good here. 19th best average finish at Vegas. Although I will say, Chase Elliott at Vegas had the fastest car in the field that day before he hit the wall and ruined his race. So I will say that. But Hendrick Motorsports as a whole back then was very fast, and they've lost all their speed. So 19th best average finish at Vegas for him. 9th best at intermediates, 12th best at steep tracks. When we go look at laps led, 12 laps led at Vegas, 498 intermediates, and 593 at steep tracks. When we go look at the last 5 races, an average finish of 13.8 and 345 laps led in the last 5 races. So he's been running pretty well. Looks like a win's coming for him. I would not be surprised to see him up there. I'd put him like behind Harvick, Keselowski, Truex, and Logano. Then I'd probably put Chase as dominator potential. So I think he's got the upside, but probably less likely to hit it. William Byron starts 28th, and DraftKings priced him up really high. Disappointing to see him go out last week in the first round, which especially when it wasn't even something that he could control. So that sucks. Only a 20th best average finish at Vegas, though, really isn't that encouraging, and 19th at intermediates and 20th at steep tracks. He does have 27 laps led at Vegas, though, which is kind of encouraging, and 154 at intermediates, 37 at steep tracks. In the last 5 races, he's only an average finish of 19.2, but he did finish like in the 30s last week. He's been more like a 12th average finish driver, so I think he has the potential. I just don't like the price that much. I think you can get more place differential guys down below, but if he ends up finishing like top 7 or something, that's going to be really good for him. But I will say Byron doesn't really have much to play for anymore, but I guess that means he's probably more than likely just going to send it for a win at this point, so I think he's fine. I'll probably have some exposure to him, just not a top option in my opinion. In this price range, I'd rather just pay $300 more for Chase Elliott at that point, unless somehow you already have like 2 of the guys above him. Then you don't need Chase Elliott, then you can play Byron. So it just all comes down to lineup construction, really. It depends how you're constructing your lineups. So, but Byron's fine, just probably not someone I want to make a priority. He's probably gonna get a lot of ownership too. So, Ryan Blaney, $9,100, starting 15th. He has the 5th best average finish at Vegas, 11th best at intermediates, and 15th at steep tracks. When we go look at laps led, 21 at Vegas, 640 at intermediate tracks, and 567 at steep tracks. If you recall in the spring race earlier this year, Ryan Blaney was going to win that race. He was out front leading the end of this race, and the caution came out 2 laps to go. He pitted and did not win, but he had that race pretty much won unless he screwed up in the last 2 laps. But so he's been fast here. Definitely someone who has upside at this track. I think could win this race. Kind of just looking. I mean, he got eliminated last round. Kind of at this point, I think it's just looking for something to salvage this season, make good out of it. Maybe get a win at the end of the season here. So definitely someone want to have some exposure to is Ryan Blaney. I think he's an interesting play here. Jimmy Johnson starting 18th at $8,900. Jimmy has the 11th best average finish at Vegas, 16th at intermediates, and 13th at steep tracks. He's not going to lead you any laps at this point, so I really wouldn't worry about that. He's not going to be a lap leader. In the last 5 races, Jimmy Johnson has an average finish of 15.2 and only 3 laps led. So, I mean, he can get you a good run, compete for a top 10. That's what Jimmy Johnson's pretty much going to do at this point. So I like him as a lower owned tournament option, but probably not someone to get a ton of exposure to. Now, Kurt Busch is horrible at Vegas. Like, he's so bad. If you go look at all of his past finishes here, they're not good. Starts 9th, but he has the 7th best average finish at intermediate tracks and the 9th best at steep tracks. Like, he runs well at these type of tracks. It's just Vegas just does not seem to fit him. But I will say Kurt Busch has not really been running too well. Average finish is 17.8 in the last 5, 20 laps led, which is nice, but not someone I really want to get a ton of exposure to at all, just because because the combination of he doesn't run well here and he does not have a good average finish coming in, so probably not someone I'm going to get a ton of exposure to is Kurt Busch, if any, honestly. So probably not someone I have too much on my radar. Eric Jones, $8,500, starting 13th. Another driver who has not run well here, but run well at the intermediates. 12 average finish at 12 in the last 5 races. I'm sorry, that's wrong. Actually, he does. I'm going to get there. He's like 12 in the last 5 races, but 12th best average finish at intermediate tracks, 10th best at steep tracks. When we go look at the last 5 races, he has an average finish of 12.6. So that's pretty solid. I'd rather play him than Kurt Busch, but again, probably both of them, not too much exposure for either of them in my opinion, for me. So if you want to go there, I think that's fine, but just probably not somewhere I'm really going to want to go to. Eric Almirola, $8,300, starts 4th. He has the 7th best average finish at Vegas, 8th best at intermediates, and 14th best at steep tracks. When we go look at the last 5 races for Eric Almirola, he has an average finish of 9.2 and 23 laps led. I think Almirola is a very sneaky play. I'm kind of surprised he still hasn't got a win this year after that summer where he was just dominating races. I think he's sneaky. I think he can hang around the top 5 all day, compete for the win, and I don't think a lot of people are going to play him, so definitely someone to look for in tournaments. Would not go there in cash, though, but definitely someone to look at in tournaments. Same thing with Clint Boyer, starts 6th, only the 17th best average finish at Vegas, though, 15th at intermediate, 7th at steep tracks. Last 5 races is an average finish of 9.6, though, so he has been running pretty well. He can hang around the top 10, could be a valuable play. I'd rather play Almirola. I think he's more likely to hang around and possibly lead laps and possibly win than Boyer at this point, but I think they're both solid plays. For GVP only, would not touch them in cash at all. Matty Benedetto, $7,900, starting 19th. He has the 14th best average finish at Vegas, and that's kind of impressive considering the fact that a lot of those races were in worse equipment than he is right now. Although I will say he had a runner-up here earlier this year, and that was kind of a fluke. I mean, he had a top 10 run going, but it wasn't a second-place finish, so it's just because of that late race restart that he, in the last 2 laps where he got up there, so we'll say that. In the last 5 races, though, Matty D has not really been running too well, only an average finish at 18.8, so I don't think he's someone I really want to get a ton of exposure to. I think he has some upside, but I think he's going to be kind of popular because people are just going to see that second place from earlier this year at Vegas, and they're just going to go on with that, but not someone I really want to get too much exposure to. Ricky Snell Jr. starts 33rd, 7,800. He's been running horrible recently, but he has 12th best average finish here. Another driver who I think he finished 3rd. I'm pretty sure, I'm like 95% sure Matty D and Ricky Snell Jr. finished 2nd and 3rd in that race last year. I know they both had top 5s, and that's going to boost up his average finish, but he's still run well here in the past. Like, he was having a good day before all of that. In the last 5 races, though, Ricky's been running bad. Average finish of 24.8. Has some accidents in there, so probably not someone I really want to get. Well, I don't know if I'd say that. I think he's a good play. I think he's good for cash. I'd play Ricky Stenhouse in cash this week because he's not in the 8Ks anymore. He's only 7,800. But in tournaments, he's probably going to be pretty popular, so there's definitely ways to get away from that. I mean, you can just pivot to Ryan Newman, who's also been running horrible, but there's definitely ways to get off of that. Austin Dillon starts 7th. He's actually run really well here. 8th best average finish at Vegas, 14th at intermediates, 8th at steep tracks. Last 5 races for Austin Dillon have been very good for him. Average finish of 12.8, 72 laps led. So definitely someone to maybe get some a little bit of ownership to, just because I think he has the upside and he can definitely just hang around in top 5 all day and get a top 5. He's running really well. Surprisingly, been running really well, but he has been running really well. So Austin Dillon definitely someone I have some interest in. Ryan Newman for $7,400, starting 27th. He has the 10th best average finish at Vegas. It's surprising, I know, but he does. And in the last 5 races, he has an average finish of 21.2. So I don't know what we're really gonna do with that one. Newman just has not had the speed really all year, but recently really hasn't been looking too great. And the last 1.5 mile tracks over the past 5 races, they've not been good finishes for him. So I think I'm just going to stay away from Newman this week. I think he's going to be a trap play that a lot of people are going to want to go to, but probably not me. Alex Bowman starts 8th. He is Alex Bowman. Okay, so Alex Bowman in that race in the spring was going to finish. I don't remember if it was 2nd or 3rd. He was running 2nd or 3rd at the end of that race, and before the caution came out, he had a good finish, but still not, obviously what he would have had. He has the 9th best average finish at Vegas, 13th at intermediates, and 11th at steep tracks. These are the type of tracks where Bowman seems to do very well at. When we go look at intermediate tracks, he has 596 laps led. In the last 5 races, Bowman has an average finish of 11.4 and average position of 12.6. He's actually been running pretty well recently, so I think he's someone who's probably going to go under own, but I think as the upside, we've seen him run really well here before, so he can get out front and lead some laps. So definitely someone I want to have some exposure to is Alex Bowman, but maybe not like a top priority this week. Christopher Bell, $7,100, starting 26. I think he's a good, I don't know. He has not been running well recently. Last 5 races for Christopher Bell has been an average finish of 25.2. It seems like that team's just fallen off ever since they've announced their closing, so they're just looking to Bell's looking to next year. So probably not someone I want to have a ton of exposure to this week. I just don't think the upside's really there. I think a lot of people are just going to try to play these place differential guys in Newman and Bell. I just don't think they're good plays. If you're going to go to one, I think Stenhouse is probably the best one, honestly, so probably not going to go there. Tyler Reddick starts 14th, $6,900. Has 14th best average finish at Vegas, 10th at intermediates, and 16th at steep tracks. In the last 5 races, Tyler Reddick has an average finish of 13.8. He's been running pretty well. Had a top 5 at Bristol last week, so I think he's just a good play. $6,900 is just too cheap for Tyler Reddick, honestly. He has top 10 upside. We saw it to hit top 5 upside last week, and I still think he can win a race. So he's definitely a good play for me, someone I want to have in some lineups for sure in tournaments. Probably not going to go there for cash, though. Bubba Wallace, $6,700, starts 23rd. Got that new deal with Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan this week. Yeah, Michael Jordan. I don't know. Kind of crazy stuff, but that's going to be an interesting team next year. I'm actually really interested to see how that works out. I want to see if Bubba can do a lot better and better equipment because he's done, for the equipment he's in this year, he's done pretty well. So I'm interested to see how he does in better equipment. But anyway, only a 22nd best average finish at Vegas. I'm going to go look at the last 5 races for Bubba. Not been good. Average finish of 26.8. So this is probably not the spot I want to get there. I just don't think this is where he's going to succeed at. But Cole Custer I do like, starting 22nd, 6,600. He's just too cheap. He has the 18th best average finish at Vegas, 17th at intermediates, and 22nd at steep tracks. Last 5 races for Cole Custer has an average finish of 14th, an average position of 14.8. Running pretty well. Bristol was tough. He had a rough race there. But, I mean, we know Cole Custer can run well at 1.5. I mean, he won Kentucky this year. Insane, but he won Kentucky. So Cole Custer, we know, can run well at these types of tracks. I think he's definitely someone who could go a little bit under own because I think people just want to play Bubba. They want to play Bell. But I think Cole Custer's probably to play down here. I think he has the most upside, most likely driver to finish inside the top 10 out of all these guys starting in the 20s, in the best equipment too. So definitely Cole Custer is someone I want to get some exposure to. Matt Kenseth starts 20, and I just don't ever want to play Matt Kenseth. Last 5 races for Matt Kenseth, an average finish at 18.8. Like, I mean, that's just, he's going to finish like somewhere between 15 and 20, and I just don't really want to play that. John Hunter Nemechek starts 25th at 6,400. Guy who seems to wreck every single race. Last 5 races, an average finish of 26 for John Hunter Nemechek. If you want to play there, if he doesn't wreck, he's going to finish inside the top 20, and that's a decent run, but he is probably going to wreck. So he's all right. If you want to go there, I think he's fine, just not someone I want to get a ton of exposure to. Chris Buescher starts 16th, 13th best average finish at Vegas. Last 5 races for Chris Buescher have been average finish of 17.6. McDowell starts 17th. His average finish in the last 5 races have been 20.4. I think they're both okay. I don't think anyone's going to play them, and if they just hang around their positions, maybe move up a few, get a top 15, maybe compete for a top 10 by the end of the race, they're going to be very valuable plays. So those are 2 drivers I definitely want to get in some tournament lineups. Definitely not touching them for cash, though. Then now you got the super cheap guys, Dillon, Suarez, Priest, LaJoie. I'm going to continue to just fade Suarez every single week. It's worked for me literally every single race this year. Just don't play Daniel Suarez. Ty Dillon, $5,900, starts 24th. 21st best average finish at Vegas. Priest starts 21st. He has not been good at Vegas, 20th best average finish. And then LaJoie starts 31st, 23rd best average finish at Vegas. When we go look at their last 5 races for these guys, we have an average finish of 24 for Ty Dillon, 19.4 for Ryan Priest, and 29.8 for Corey LaJoie. In all honesty, I really don't want to play any of these guys. If you're going to go down there for cash, I think Dillon's probably the one to go with. Priest just starts too high for me, man. I mean, he probably finishes higher more than likely out of all those guys, but I just don't see him moving up a ton. If he moves up, he's going to move up like 1, 2, 3 spots. But I think that's really all I got to say in this video. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. Make sure to leave a like and a comment and a subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. Hope you guys have a great weekend of watching NASCAR, watching football. Be sure to go check out my NFL content. That's all available now. So yeah, hopefully I have a great weekend. I'll have football and NASCAR on TVs in my apartment this week, so I'm excited for that. Thank you guys so much for checking this out, and hope you guys have a great rest of your day.